Welcome to the Mandala Podcast, where we help you feel your best body, mind, and soul. Hey there, Charlie McDermott, back, and most importantly, back with Bree Jaworski. Bree, how you
Doing
doing?
great, Charlie. Thanks so much. How are you?
I'm doing terrific, and holy cow! I mean, little by little, we're working on. Is this episode 4?
Yeah, episode 4, which is exciting.
Wow!
Yeah. I remember when it was just an idea
Yeah,
and now it's a thing, which is cool. Yep.
amazing. You put things out there, you do a little work, and bingo, bango, and more importantly, I mean, we've already you know, seen, heard the results. I mean, some of the topics that you've covered. This is part 3 of the personality
Mhm.
disorder series, and you're going to get into a couple other, you know, mental health conditions
Yep.
today. Uh, Learned a lot. Number one, personally, Bree, from
Good.
this. This has just been helpful, even if I'm not seeking help. So that's awesome. But
Yes.
certainly, the reason why you're doing this is to help those out there, whether they're in Southwest Florida or
Yeah.
beyond, to share your experience and all that.
Yeah, I
So
mean, I hope it's been helpful.
congrats. Yeah.
I've tried to make it somewhat easy to understand. I mean, there's a lot, there's a lot to each one, but
Mm, yeah.
so today we're going to go over the last 2 of the cluster B personality disorders, so histrionic personality disorder and antisocial personality disorder. So we're going to wrap this series up today with those 2. So I'm excited.
Okay. Well, I'm going to just turn the mic over to you then and get us
Okay.
started.
All right. So let's start with histrionic. So histrionic personality disorder, again, is in what we call the cluster B group of personality disorders. So I'm going to give just some of the things that you would see as far as symptomology, and then discuss also some examples that people might know. All right. So histrionic is the biggest thing about it. They use a lot of physical appearance to draw attention. Attention is like their number one goal. So they actually get very uncomfortable and upset if they're not the center of attention. So whereas a lot of people are like the exact opposite, they don't want to be the center of attention. Someone who has histrionic personality disorder is going to always want to be the center of attention. They're pretty easy to spot, to be honest. If you come across somebody who and most people, even if they don't know if the person has had like an actual diagnosis, you can think of somebody in your past that like always, no attention was bad attention kind of thing, like always has to be the center of attention and gets really
Yeah.
upset, angry, or, like distraught if not. So other things, they tend to have very unstable emotions, um, a distorted self-image. Again, just they always want to be noticed. So whatever they have to do to get noticed. And sometimes those things are not great things. Sometimes they can be of like an inappropriate sexual manner. It could be anywhere from like the way that they're acting to the way that they dress or appear or the things that they say. Just really a lot of times they'll say things that don't even make sense just to be like outlandish or to like get attention. Um, so just like a lot of very attention seeking behavior. And yeah, so some examples of this would be really, I mean, I'm not like diagnosing them obviously, but like really anybody that would want to be on a reality TV show.
Oh my
Yeah, and
goodness.
especially one
Yeah.
that's based around, like, bad behavior. So, like, I don't know if this show exists anymore, but there used to be a show called The Bad Girls Club, and, like, every woman on that show would just act crazy, do the craziest things, say the craziest things, and then they put them all in a house together, and then that, of course, was chaotic. So, like, stuff like that, like, just, the worst kind of attention that you can imagine, that would be this person.
Hmm.
So then
Yeah.
a lot of actors and actresses in Hollywood actually could fall into this category as well. We don't always see the behind the scenes of these people, but just the fact that they want to be seen, they want to be the center of attention. There could be some personality disorder type things going on behind the scenes with those people as well. It is definitely rumored and alleged that Amber Heard, people are like, Amber Heard's been in the news a lot lately with her court case with Johnny Depp. people have alleged that she has been diagnosed with histrionic personality disorder because of some of the outlandish things that she's done just to get attention.
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes this will include making things up or lying or I don't think they do it so much to intentionally lie. It's almost just like that they just want it's almost like coming up with a good story for the attention. So sometimes,
Yeah.
you know, that might look innocent enough, but, you know, a lie is a lie is a lie kind of thing. So
So, question for you, because I have spent my share, on a production set,
yeah.
and that center of the universe,
Mhm.
and how intoxicating that can be. I mean, just for someone on the outside, and that is, you live that for a period of time. I mean, weeks, months, in cases
Yeah.
years, with a TV
Right.
series. So is that a disorder that's developed, that could be developed through that, or is that something you're already trending that way, or you kind of have that in your
Yeah.
personality, and then that becomes the final piece that really puts you over the
Right.
top? How does
Yeah, it's tricky. We don't really know how a lot of these personality
Yeah,
disorders, like, come to be. You know, there are studies that say that it could be genetic, there are studies that say it could be environmental, but, I think that attention for a lot of people can be kind of contagious, so I think that that can happen on a like, a set or something like that where people, you know, it's kind of like nice to have the spotlight on you or to have like that energy and like, you know, the focus be on you. But I think when it turns into more of a personality disorder is when it's, you know, just taking over your life, like you're consumed by it. I think most people well, I don't know about most people, but a lot of people, even in that field, can step away from it, and in fact, they like
yeah,
their
yeah,
privacy, they like their downtime, whereas someone with histrionic personality disorder, they would not like that time.
that's
They'd
like
be the ones calling the paparazzi, telling them to show up, versus someone who's, like, you know, trying to have a little bit of, like, off camera time, you know?
privacy,
Yeah.
right, right. Okay, yeah, makes
Yeah,
sense.
so,
Okay.
I know I brought her up before, but she is just a plethora of mental illness, but Regina George from Mean Girls, I know I've mentioned her before.
Oh, Mean Girls, there's so much going on in
Poor
that movie.
Regina, I keep picking on her, I know, but, like, you know, she is a good example. She's very, very, obsessed with the way she looks and needs you know, she has this, like, clique of girls that are constantly, like, around her, and she needs to be the center of attention, so she has very, histrionic kind of, attributes as well, so and the other person that I thought of and I don't know if you've seen this movie, but it's called Bad Teacher, and it stars Cameron Diaz.
Oh, I've not seen it, but I remember the previews.
Her
Yeah,
character
yeah.
is, like, textbook histrionic, like, literally, like, does whatever, uses very much, like, exudes, like, her sexuality and, like, her looks and appearances to, like, get her way and to, like, you know, just do whatever and be in the center of everyone's, you know, mind all the time. So she definitely, like, makes me think of her for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright. I'll put it on my
Yeah,
list.
it's a good movie. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I told my husband, any movie that starts with the word bad is typically one that I'm gonna like, so
That brings to mind Bad Santa. Haven't seen that one either, but,
yes, that one's a good
uh,
one too.
that might
It's very
qualify.
raunchy, but,
Yeah.
like, hilarious, I'm not
Uh,
gonna lie, it's hilarious. So, yeah, you should put that one on your list for sure too. All
alright.
right, so the very last one of the cluster B personality disorders that we're going to talk about, and this is definitely the most dangerous, it's the most damaging, and that would be the antisocial personality disorder. So, not to be confused, I think people get this confused because the name implies some sort of like, you know, like being an introvert or being a hermit or not wanting to be around people.
Yeah.
It's not what it is at all. So antisocial personality disorder is, the official, like, DSM diagnosis for someone being a psychopath. And so, obviously, like, when we think of psychopaths, the first thing that comes to my mind is serial killers. So serial killers typically fall into this, category, but we see
Hmm,
a lot of lies, breaking laws, very impulsive in their actions, but also they have a lack of regard for other people, for sometimes even themselves in regards to like safety and things like that. They tend to be very reckless, violent, antagonistic, just a very like the kind of the person you would not want to live next door to or definitely don't wanna live with. These are like the actual scary, type of people as far as a diagnosis. So,
Wow.
yeah, like the people that you would consider a psychopath or sociopath, like they fall into this category. So it has nothing to do with them being antisocial in a way that in a context that we understand it in our society. It's very much like they're anti-society and that they don't follow societal rules. They just kind of do whatever they want. And one of the things that we notice, so this diagnosis can't be made until the person is 18, nor should it be, because we have other diagnoses that are more suitable for someone that is younger. But we do notice
Mhm.
that there are things such as harming of animals or even killing of animals that you notice when they're younger. So this would be something that you would notice. You wouldn't necessarily be able to diagnose them with antisocial personality disorder at that stage, but when you're getting information about history and history taking with someone, that would be something that would be a huge red flag to this particular diagnosis.
Right.
Again, we're not really sure where this stems from. Some people believe that it could be genetic, and other people believe that it could be environmental. But we do know that it does affect men more than women, and we see it in a higher percentage in the prison population, which would make sense. Um,
Yeah.
so, for instance, like if someone with antisocial personality disorder saw someone in a car accident, like, they actively saw someone get in a car accident. Most people would pull over, they might call 911, they might get out and try to help. This person would just keep on going. Like, they don't have a regard for other people, they don't feel guilt, they don't have
Guess they're lacking empathy,
correct.
is that
Mhm.
kinda
No
yeah,
empathy and just
yeah.
no, they have no regard for consequences, so yeah, just not really a type of person that you'd wanna be around if given the opportunity to choose, so
Right, and are they typically loners then?
They can be some people okay, so psychopathy in general falls on a spectrum. So,
Mhm.
there are people who are diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder who are not criminals and are not violent and all of these things. Obviously, like, I'm discussing some of the more extreme versions. So, if they
Right,
fall on that
right.
other end of the spectrum, just kind of where they still don't feel, like, guilt or remorse for things, but they're able to cognitively, like, keep their actions in check still, like, they know what's acceptable in society, and even though they may not feel it, and they may not feel that empathy or, like, those normal human emotions or range of feelings, they still know, like, logically, like, "This is not okay," or, "I need to act a certain way in order to, like, acclimate into society and be like a normal functioning human being." So there are people
Hmm,
that are given this diagnosis that don't commit crimes or anything like that, and so those people are able to,
right.
like, be in a relationship or, like, function in society, hold jobs and things like that. And then the people that are on the other far end of the spectrum, they also tend to, kind of enmesh into society, but a lot of times they're doing some of these really harmful and violent and scary things on the side. When we look at serial killers, a lot of times they're leading kind of a double life. So they may have a
Hmm,
wife and kids at home and then be out murdering people on the side at night. And, nobody knows until they know. So
right.
that's kind of the scary thing about it is they are a lot of times able to hold back on they're not able to hold back on their impulsivity. They're still doing the impulsive things, but it's like they're able to, like, hide them, keep them secret in the far end of the spectrum where we see, like, the actual, like,
Yeah,
murder and things like that. So, yeah. Yeah,
wow.
so serial killers definitely. Um, as far as characters, so the Joker from Batman, I think he would fall into this category. And
Yeah,
also one that's pretty famous is, from the movie American Psycho. So Patrick Bateman's character, who's played by Christian Bale, he would fall into this
Mm,
category as well.
yeah,
So those are obviously like sensationalized versions, but yeah, it gives you like a little bit of an idea of kind of what makes them tick, if that makes sense.
yeah, yeah. Wow. So then, bringing this full circle, for someone listening, yourself, someone I mean, what is that next step once you
Yeah.
realize that, hey, maybe I need some
Yeah,
help?
and so for people that are on that end of the spectrum that is able to, live a relatively normal life, even though they don't feel and maybe see things in a normal sense, they're still able to cognitively, like, put it together enough to where they can live normal lives. Like, those people typically do seek therapy, and, psychotherapy actually has been found to work. Again, there's no, medication per se for personality disorders, but there are medications that can treat the symptomology of the different personality disorders. So there's not like a, "Oh, you're antisocial personality disorder. Here's a pill for that." But if you have, there could be mood disturbances and things like that could be corrected with medication. So there are different things that you can do to help. But I honestly, therapy for someone who's like functioning and is not like a criminal or anything like that, that would be the best like route for them to. I think it would be a good thing too, so that they can, because sometimes they don't have the best grasp on what it's like to have to think normally and to process things normally. I think it'd be good to, like, have somebody to bounce those ideas
Yeah,
off of,
yeah,
rather than, like, freaking out the people close to you, like, "Hey, I don't have feelings about this," or "I don't feel emotions about this." Like, whereas your therapist can be like, "Okay, well, I understand that, but can we find a way around that so that we can act in a certain way or behave in a certain way that's, like,
yeah, yeah.
acceptable in, like, a workplace or relationship or whatever." So yeah, so therapy definitely.
So yeah. So this might be all movie sensationalism or TV, but you see those shows of the whatever, the serial killer or the criminal, and they talk about the voices inside their heads,
Yes.
right? What yeah, yeah, I said, so you're shaking your
Yeah.
head. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what is that all about? I mean, is
Charlie, you're
that,
getting into a
just
whole different realm. So so typically if someone is hearing voices, like, everybody has the voice in their head, like their conscience or
Yeah,
whatever you
yeah,
wanna call it. But if you're actually hearing
yeah,
voices, like other people that aren't you, um, the first thing that comes to mind is probably schizophrenia or something along those lines, which is a
mhm,
completely, totally different, subset of
yeah,
disorders, but and it's also not a personality disorder. So, but we do have a cluster of personality disorders that have, um, those kind of tendencies. So, eh, things that make you hallucinate or have delusions and things like that. So there's a whole subset of personality disorders that come
mm,
with those things too. But yeah, that would be definitely, that would make me think probably schizophrenia.
yeah,
And there is
mm,
fortunately, there are medications and things that you can take for that that help subside
yeah,
a lot of those symptoms. Unfortunately, though, a lot of people come to not like them, I don't think that's the right term, but they get used to them. They get used to those voices, unless they're, like, harmful voices telling them to, like, harm themselves or harm, but if it's just kind of passive
mm,
voices that they're hearing, they get used to those, and then when those voices go away, they don't like it, and so a lot of people get on medication and then get off medication because they wanna get back to their normal, as long as the voices aren't, like,
wow, right,
intrusive or dangerous or that kinda thing. So,
yeah.
it's all kind of, like, personal preference, but yeah, I mean, maybe someday we'll get into that kinda stuff too, but not today.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that was great. Anything else you wanna add? Anything we
The
missed?
only thing I'd like to add is just, I think the next little segment of, podcast that I'd like to do is answer some relationship questions. So if anybody has any relationship questions, you can go ahead and email them to me and we will read some of them on the air and I'll answer them for people. And so yeah, that's kind of where I'm thinking we'll go next.
Oh, terrific,
Yeah.
terrific. And so we can certainly include the email on the
Mhm.
description. Do you want to share the email for our
So the
listeners?
best email to write in your relationship questions would be the MandalaPodcast at gmail.com. And you can let me know if you'd rather them be anonymous, which is totally fine. I can read them and answer them anonymously, or you can submit your name if you're comfortable with that. But anything having to do with relationship red flags specifically, I think that would be a good thing. That's something that in my office we cover all the time. I'm a little bit obnoxious in this, but, I have actual red flags in my office that I'll wave around when
Uh,
people are telling me about their relationships, because a lot of times I'll ask them like, "Okay, so do you see anything wrong with this?" Or like, are you noticing any red flags?" And they're like, no." And I'm like, "Mm." So eventually, I just got these red flags, literal red flags that I'll
uh-huh.
just wave around casually in my sessions, and my clients think it's funny now because they know about the red flags. But honestly, they get really good at picking them out. Once I kind of show them some different ways of looking at
Mm,
things and how certain red flags can turn into bigger issues or that kind of thing, they start to pick out the red flags themselves a lot easier. So, my hope is that just by reading some of these questions and answering some of them, it will give people some insight into their own situations and maybe be able to help some people either. I don't want to tell people to get out of situations necessarily, but just point out some things that might be red flags or just behavior that I know has been shown to escalate to bigger things or worse things, So that would be my hope, is that I can help someone get out of a situation that's unhealthy or to help them at least recognize some of the red flags. So send all your red flags to
yeah.
me and we will read some of them.
And you're gonna have to bring your red flags to the next
Yes,
episode
I
so
will.
we
I
can
had like
yeah.
14 of them. I started giving them out to my clients after a while because you cannot just buy one single red flag on Amazon. Like, who knew? I'm probably, like, the only weird person that tried to get that anyway, but they're, like, come in packs of, like, 10,000, so I have a lot of them.
Oh, love it, love it. That's great. Well, Bree, pleasure as always, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the next episode.
Awesome. Thank you so much,
Thanks
Charlie.
for listening to the Mandela Podcast. To learn more about Mandela counseling and health coaching, go to www.mandala-counseling.com. That's www.mandala, counseling, counseling.com, or call 239-360-1983, or visit us on Facebook or Instagram.